Some will back some am Helchtun. Clocht Sanam am Gnail am Gets am Hiroch to begin of Lom the Mar meeting Lom. Amen. Before we start, maybe we'll do a round of introductions so that we all know who's who. I think we have a new person at the table, Melanie Anthony. So I'll start. My name is Guier Brian Williams, and I chair the crisis management team.
Bernard Smith, Somali Supplemental Eagles.
Gordon Sebastian Goodwood, he was Executive Director for the Chief's Office.
Robert Campbell, on this committee discuss on crisis management committee.
Smogan Hunt,
Manager of Gitxsan Environmental Services, technical advisor to the Gitxsan government.
Robin Alexander, Wiskin, Discuss, Crisis Management Team.
Norman Moore, Nola, and Morlachan.
Troy Larden, Section Head for Fish and Wildlife out of Smithers, Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development.
Your turn, Melanie.
Melanie Anthony, I'm Acting Aboriginal Affairs Advisor for Fisheries and Oceans, and I'm based out of Smithers.
Thank you, everyone. So we have the agenda in front of us. We did the opening prayer, review the agenda, review December 5th meeting notes. Number 4, TFO Melanie Anthony, introduction, CN update information. Number 5, Monty Stevens, Kispiox Band, managing the permits and licenses on the Kispiox River. Number 6, Flynn Road, Troy Larden, Department Head, Fish and Wildlife General Update, CN update or information. Number 7, Anglers and Recreational Fishermen, report by Brian Williams. Number 8, Jurisdiction, Anat, Ayok, do not play with fish and do not waste fish, Robert Campbell. Number 7, Other. Number 8, next meeting date in February 2020. And closing prayer, Vernon Smith. Does that all work for everyone here? We're good. So we'll go into number 3, review December 5th meeting notes. I think you all have a copy of it. Any errors, omissions from the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to look at it? If there are none, any follow-up from the minutes? Sorry, my memory eludes me, Troy. You responded with Aaron Trowbridge, who will likely be appointed as senior manager to oversee implementation, and Deputy Minister John Allen will be publishing objectives in our ministry over the coming months. Have you had any follow-up with that?
Still no publication from John Allen, and Aaron is the primary contact for implementation of BC DRIPA.
Okay.
And I understand you guys had a meeting with Donaldson. Is there going to be a report out on that meeting?
We can. It is very brief. We talked a little about our jurisdiction, and we talked about our ANAT, our fishing sites, and we discussed the joint working relationship we have, and we indicated you were at the table. We also indicated that DFO hasn't been at the table. There are different demands on DFO. That's all I can recall. Is any other comments from the table that were at that meeting with Mr. Donaldson?
I just want to ask Melanie how come the feds don't want to come to our meeting.
We'll get to that.
That's part of their job.
Okay, we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was brief. Mr. Donaldson only had an hour, and we shared our concerns. And as a minister, he provided a few comments, but that is primarily it.
Okay. I didn't receive any action points out of that meeting, so I was just wondering if there was anything.
You were supposed to bring donuts for this meeting.
We
That's
don't
what
do
he
donuts
told us.
anymore. It's all fruit.
That's what he told us. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. No other business from the minutes? Any clarifications? I believe we're good. We're good minutes of what captured what happened at the meeting. Thank you. So we'll go to Melanie Anthony, number 4. Melanie?
Hi there. Firstly, I'd like to apologize for not being there in person. I was unable to travel today. The intent moving forward is that we will be able to travel. I think that this, unfortunately, the weather is inclement, but also there were competing priorities for Sandra, so she sends her apologies that she could not attend today. Sandra Davies is the acting area director for North Coast right now. She's currently traveling back from Pacific Salmon Treaty meetings down in Portland, Oregon. But we would like to try to schedule the ability to come and attend in person in the future. I only came onto this position late in the fall. I think that it was Juanita Rogers and Amy Wakeland that were there in the summer. Amy's on a different file right now, and Juanita has gone back to her position in Nanaimo. So I stepped into that role in the interim, and at this point I'll be acting in this position until the end of March. And thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to being able to come up there.
Thank you, Melanie, for the introduction. Do you have any updates on the CN, train derailment?
I don't have much for updates, but I can tell you a little bit about what I do know. From what I understand, because there was no, I guess we call it deleterious substance, so no gasoline or diesel or hydrocarbons, DFO is not the lead when it comes to this, but the CN environmental representative has been in contact with DFO. It's our fish habitat and protection program out of Vancouver and Nanaimo, so they have been in communication and they have been providing updates. The environmental representative from CN has also indicated that they have been in communication with local First Nations, so I don't know exactly who they've been in communication with, but I can forward on their CN's information to you, and you can contact them directly and find out exactly where they stick with that.
Much appreciated. We have Vernon who wants to make a comment.
I don't think there's a meeting yet with the local Gimrach people in regards to the CN derailment. We're still waiting for an update on it.
Okay, I will contact the CN representative and then get them in contact with you, so we can find out exactly who they're meeting with, and maybe they can meet with you directly.
Okay.
Thank you, Melanie. Any questions for Melanie or comments? Gitxsan?
Melanie, I was wondering if yourself or someone from DFO would come to the meeting if we organized a luncheon or a dinner between CN Rail and the chiefs that were affected by this derailment, along with the province and the chiefs from this table. Would you consider that, or do you have to ask somebody?
I will have to ask somebody. I can find out.
All right, let us know, and then if you can, then we'll start organizing. We'll see if CN will be able to attend a little gathering.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Robert? You're good? No other comments with number 4? We'll move on to number 5.
I have a comment.
Oh, Chris Ken?
For Melanie. The environment, the CN environmental and DFO, any kind of spills, aren't you guys supposed to report or say anything to the public for their public safety?
I think that because I don't know exactly what's happened at that site. I haven't been there myself or seen it. But I know that Ian has been in contact with DFO, and from what I understand, I could be incorrect, but from what I understand, if it's not in the water or with deleterious substance, like something that's polluting, then it's assessed kind of on a regular basis by CN until they let us know. But I would have to follow up on that to find out exactly where the communication is, because they don't communicate directly with me. It's with a separate program within DFO.
Still, if there's a spill, there's poison and everything going off CN so-called territory, the public should still know any concerns or safeties.
Yes, and I think that if we find out from CN exactly what's going on, and I'll try reaching out to their representative and see if they can provide me with an update. I just don't know if it's that I'm not in the loop, or if or if there's a different process, it might be Environment Canada or Ministry of Transport, if it's not directly DFO.
Thank you.
So before we finish that, I have a couple of action items for you, Melanie. One was to provide contact information to us here, and also to provide a date on when you will have them contact the Kittenwach chiefs. Right, Nis Kiminu.
I'd just like to ask you, Mullen, have they recovered all the pellets from that spill? No.
I don't know the answer to that. Unfortunately, I don't know.
And another one is just any chemical mix in those pellets.
Yeah, I think all this information is I'm gonna have to reach out to the CN representative to find out where that's at.
Melanie, it's Troy here. I'll be able to provide some of those gaps in my update.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, the reason I asked is when they haven't recovered every piece of the spill. When they melt, if there's chemical, they eventually seep into the river. And that affects everybody on the lakes.
Mr. Chair, did you want me to
Yes.
address that? So, Troy Larden from Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Forests, Lands and Natural Resource Operations. Got a note from Elaine yesterday requesting that the province provide an update on the CN rail spill. And up to yesterday, I was not involved and didn't have any information, but I did receive an update from Dale Bull, who is the Senior Response Officer for the Ministry of Environment, and he has a responsibility to coordinate ministry or provincial government activities on the spill. He's reported out to several. He's got a pretty extensive contact list here, and I note that Chaz Ware is included in this contact list. So Chaz has been provided the exact information that I am going to present right now. In answer to Mr. Campbell's question about deleterious substance or ingredients in the pellets, CN has reported that no pellets or wreckage have entered the Skeena River, and they've also confirmed that the pellets are not treated. They are actually just pellets. They contain wood waste from pine and spruce, but do not contain any additives. So there are no chemicals associated with their composition. And we're also made aware by CN that the risk of contamination to the ground or the water is only that which occurs by decomposing wood, because that's all there is. So it's just like a downed tree on the ground that's going to decompose and sort of enter the environment. What I don't know and I can't report on is the question that was brought forward earlier about have all the pellets been recovered. I don't know, but I do have understanding that that is one of their objectives, that they do wish to recover all the pellets. They were going to initiate transfer of the pellets from the wrecked cars into new cars once the rail line was fixed, and that was to begin on the 10th of January, and I don't have progress on that at all. But my understanding from the reports from Mr. Bull, Dale Bull, is that the risk to the environment is negligible. That's my report, Brian, or Mr. Chair, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Troy. All right. Any further discussion, Chaz, or? No?
No, yeah, I was asked to go out and take a look at the site the day of. called CN's environmental manager, just asked to see where they were at. She was busy flying up here. I went out to the site, seen a gentleman named Jason Boscher from the province, who's a provincial emergency response officer. Got some good information from him. He showed me an app where he was checking which cars had which substances, all that kind of stuff. I took some pictures, provided a report back, and then the last time I went out was on Friday last week. And at that point, they had cleared a whole bunch of vegetation on the uphill side of the railway tracks. They had pulled the cars that were blocking the railway off and were storing them on the uphill side. There was really no activity going on. I think there was two trains that were putting down some sections of track, but the priority was to get the rail line open. And then from the report, it sounded like they were getting some specialized equipment from Vancouver shipped down so they can start getting the cars out of there and recovering the pellets. But I haven't had a response, or I haven't had an update since last Friday from the province. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. Thank you, Troy and Melanie, on the report on the CN spill. Gordon?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The reason I mentioned the lunch or dinner with CN, DFO, and the province, and the chief here, is that the CN are aware that the ANAC and jurisdiction over that area of the river is with the Eagle Clan and Simidik, Samogat Simidik. And then yesterday at 2:30 in the afternoon, CN contacted the Gitxsan Band Council to see if they had any concerns regarding the CN derailment. So we'd just like to have this lunch or dinner to ensure that CN knows which jurisdiction they're in at that point, and that it would be nice if DFO and the province would make the proper reference in those situations. So we are keenly aware that there's so many people involved, and we want to be able to coordinate at least one on the Gitxsan side, one point of contact, and that would be the Samogat, whose jurisdiction these things happen in. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Ken?
I'd like to add on to what Gordon's talking about. All us hereditary chiefs are all affected by that CN route. We all have fishing. That's it.
Thank you, Ken. So no further discussions. We will move into number 5. Monty Stevens, Hunt, Kispiox Band.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for welcoming me to the meeting, or asking me to be here. I'm not too sure what you guys are kind of looking for today. Just the job description I do for the Kispiox.
Probably how the Kispiox Band manages the fee structure and permitting.
Okay.
And also like the evolution, how it started, and how you guys have developed it over the years as well. That'd be awesome.
I think the River Guardian program came into effect in probably, what was it, 2000? It's probably been about 7 years, I believe. We've been running. We kind of just took, and we took charge of the river. Kispiox River is kind of like a world-renowned river. It's really It provides some of the largest steelhead. Everybody knows about our steelhead. It's the last wild steelhead in BC, so you have a lot of people coming from all over the world to come to fish for them. And the Kispioks was so famous that it became really famous. It was, so people came from all over. We had to cut down traffic, so this is why the Kispioks River Guardian was put in effect. I'm not too sure who organized it, but I was asked to take part in it because I was out on the river all the time. And what it involves is basically there was a handful of us picked, and then we were given receipt books, and we'd go out on the river and collect fees off the fishermen. They on top of their freshwater license, but we charged an access fee. What we called it an access fee, but it was basically a trespass fee. For a trespass fee for a non-resident, that would be an American or a European, we would charge them $100 per day for the day to fish, whatever. If they were taking any kind of flotations or boats, rafts, anything that would float them down the river, we would charge them another $100 on top of that. For BC resident, that's someone in the like Vancouver and all that area that would come in, we charge them $50. And for a local person, say Hazelton, Smithers, Terrace area, we charge them $25 basically for the day. Yeah, that's basically what we do is charge access fees. And if none of them are compliant, we just kindly ask them to leave. So we got a lot of feedback the first year. It was really tough, rough. There was a lot of altercations, but the team stood their ground, and yeah. So, but I think we're coming up to our 8th year of doing it, and now the fishermen are pretty compliant when they come around in the area. But on the Kispioks area, we only do a certain amount from I think it's about 3 miles of the Kispioks River. We don't do all of it all the way up to Sweden. There's a certain amount of area on the Kispioks River that we manage, and what's that?
Reserve.
Yeah, the reserve boundary. Yeah, that's what they call it. We're in the reserve boundary, so that's the part of the river that we access. I don't know if that made any sense, but any questions?
You mentioned $50. What was that $50 for?
It's basically just for an access fee for them to be on the reserve boundary.
Is that for the locals or?
That's for the BC residents, it's
Oh,
called.
BC.
Yeah, BC residents, say in Vancouver or around in that area. So, but the non-resident fee is $100. And also, if they're going to be taking a boat or whatever, everyone will have to pay the $100 access fee for them to put their boat out there and everything. So
And that's for flotation, eh?
anything that floats, we call
Yeah.
it. So anything that's going to get them down the river, they pay $100.
Okay, you've been doing it for 8 years. You should, okay, how much do you get each year?
I've never really did a calculation, but sometimes, yeah, I'm handing anywhere up to probably $3,000 to $4,000 every couple of weeks, maybe. I don't know. That's just, and I had a crew of 6 before, but now there's only 2 of us, and that's a lot of river to cover with the 2-man crew. So, and we still get a lot of people that are sneaking around, and it's kind of they get in there early in the mornings, and then they take off before people come around, like, well, for instance, me, and it's kind of like a kick to the groins. So and you get them coming in late at night just before dark. So they still try to find ways around it, and it's actually kind of insulting. So, yeah.
When you're dealing with trespass, I think there should be a price where everybody's the same, right across.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to discourage trespass, and the local people, we can't say, well, you're local, you know, you can't trespass for a lower price. I think it should remain 100.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. We've had talks. We just haven't actually put the plan. We haven't. I see where you're coming from, and I understand where you're coming from. And like I said, it has been put in talks before. We have talked about it, and you know, we've thought about. Well, we wanted to make it to. We want to make it to where they have to just come to the building itself before, and then have them come in. So like the way they set up to go out and get their licenses, we wanted to have them where they have to come to the building and say, hey, well, I'm gonna get this as well, so we don't have to go out and track them down and stuff. So, but tracking them down and just patrolling the river, that's basically what we've been doing the last 6 years or so. But yeah. Anything else?
Are you targeting the guides? Like they should, they're the ones that are earning big bucks on
The guides, they pay a seasonal pass, and that's that's with the Kispiox Band Council. They work out a deal between themselves, I guess. So I'm not too sure what is the asking price, but so they meet with the band council, and if there's any change, they come in and meet with the band councils, so, well, the Kispiox Band Council, because majority of the guiding that is done is on the Kispiox and the Skeena River, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious. Hold on. Oh, sorry, we got Vernon here.
Just to support Norman's $100 fee, you lower it to the locals. And I agree with Norman, it should be straight across, because when I first stayed with my wife, we went to with his to go fishing. We crossed private land, they call it, and we got stopped. We couldn't access the fishing ground where they want to fish. So they don't make any exceptions. So I think that should be the basis on their guys' decision to charge $100 across the board.
Yeah.
So I support Norman, $100 across the board. Whether you're local or not, these guys don't allow you access to the fishing ground.
I can see where you guys are coming from that, and I totally support what you guys are saying. This, it was basically put in, like what you just said, that you weren't able to access your fishing. This was one of the big reasons that the River Guardian was put in program, because the locals would go out and to go fish their, their hot spots and stuff like that, and you'd go there and they would be loaded with walk-ins, fly fishermen, and guides. So we kind of just took charge, and it cut back down on a lot of the traffic that was on the on the Kispiox. But I'm seeing in the last few years that it's becoming like, at first they were really angry about it because they had to pay more money, obviously, right? So a lot of them didn't come in, but the ones that did, they were fine with it. They just said, okay, well, it's like, so. And it is increasing, it's getting busy again. So it kind of just becomes you know, a normal routine, and people kind of catch on and they say, well, you know, we got to pay $100 to go out and fish world-renowned river. Sure, why not? Non-guided, so.
Chaz?
Yeah, I was just curious, you mentioned that in the beginning you guys had 6 river guardians and now you're at 2. With the 6, did they stay within that 3-mile stretch, or were you guys going further out and
No.
monitoring the whole river?
We managed from what they call Agudin down to the Kispiox Bridge, right at the confluence
Yeah.
where the Skeena and the Kispiox meet. It's probably, if we were to get on a raft and float it straight through, it's probably a 2.5 hour float. But if you're fishing it, you can make it a whole day. From that patch, from the patch down to the bridge, you're probably looking at least, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fishing spots. And yeah, the guides know it very well, I guess you'd say. But we'd manage, when we first started, we had 2 people per hole, so they'd manage the top, like the potato patch, Dade Creek, down at the point, and there's another place called JC's we'd have to go in and check. So it was just basically going into all the spots where vehicles could get to the Kispiox River, and we'd manage those little areas. So, but there's only 2 of us now, so
You still covered all that though?
yeah, it's yeah.
Troy?
Thanks for the presentation and the information. Just one question, what are the dates of the program? When does it start and when do you end?
We used to do majority of steelhead season, so that'd be September 1st to, I believe, November 1st. But we had a lot of requests from the local fishermen and local people to start during spring season. So basically, when the springs start getting into the Kispiox River and Skeena system, and then we basically run till freeze up. Because yeah, usually the fishermen are here basically till the river freezes up after it opens for steelhead season.
Robin?
3 questions. First question, who's Annette? Is that on in the Kispiox?
It's kind of been up to debate, I guess. They call it band land, so.
I find that funny to hear because in our, I think at every reserve, somebody owns part of the fishing holes. Like in Killonga, even on the reserve, there's still somebody owns what and what,
Okay.
even far off, so. Second question is that just steelhead? You guys are catching release, or?
For the access fees?
Yeah, is it just steelhead or spring salmon, or is there sockeye being caught, or just steelhead alone?
No, like I was just saying, the majority of the busy, when it gets busy there is when during steelhead season. And steelhead start coming in the Kispiox system in around mid-August. But the season opening is September 1st, I believe. And that's when the rivers will start getting busy everywhere, basically, the Bulkley, Skeena, and the Kispiox. So, but we did start doing, we started charging access for them going out targeting the Chinook as well. But everybody knows the season's been closed for Chinooks the last couple of years, so.
Okay, third question is, isn't this going against what we were trying to do here?
You guys started this how long ago though?
3 years.
Yeah, ours was put into 6 years ago, and so, but I see where you're coming from, and I'm not arguing your point. I understand what you guys are trying to accomplish here, and I totally support it. Like I said, I play both fields. I make a living being a sports fisherman, working in the tourism business. That's how I feed my family. But like I said, I'm Gitxsan first, and our IOC, I support it. So, any more questions?
Oh, we got Robert and Norman.
I agree with Robin about that. What's happening there is contravening our plan trying to control sport fishing. It says on our tributaries of the ski, and that includes Kiskuk, the Balkan. And what, from what I heard, you charge $25 for local. Is that rod and reel?
Yeah, it's just rod and reel.
Because when you're doing food fishing, you don't charge, they just ask permission, that's Gitxsan way.
Yeah.
But if it's rod and reel, us Gitxsan, we don't, like other people say, trophy fishing. We don't do that. What Gitxsan is doing is that they're fishing for their food. There's no such thing as trophy fishing or sport fishing in our language. None. And just another thing is all the reserve land is included under 33 square kilometers. It's Gitxsan territory. It'll be easier just to buy fish off somebody if you're going to charge $100. I don't know if I'm bringing this out the right way, but us Gitxsan, we share. It's been like that for thousands of years. We support each other, we share. If somebody wanna fish when you're on that, or either the barter, they don't charge you. Bartering is sort of exchange. But nowadays, sometimes you just pay for the fee for the gas that they're used to go out in the boat or whatever. I'm not trying to argue about, I know our Monties say that's his way of living. Is there any way to compromise between what we're doing as crisis management team and hereditary chiefs and what did you call it? River Gardens?
Yeah, River Gardens.
Kiskuk's River Gardens.
I can see charging the foreigners, we may call them that, extra fees for fishing. No such word as trophy fishing or sport fishing in their language. That goes to wildlife. It's getting pretty bad. I know I'm going a little off track, I'm just using an example. As Chad showed me the picture, moose laying beside the road, it's just the head was cut off and the meat left to rot. So I'm not trying to argue with Monty, he has to make a living. If we could work out a compromise, same with the guide, fishing guides along the river in our jurisdiction. They have to come to the table and work this out. But you heard that. picture of the printout, then just basically something to change. I just wanted to bring that up. For your friend, this is included on your 33 square kilometers of Gitxsan territory. And we don't sport fish, we don't say we're fishing for trophy.
Yeah.
And if the locals like us, the natives, they usually just ask permission. They don't charge. But it's our law, if somebody gives you something, you give something back. That's how everything works in our system. Thank you.
Just to add on what Niska Manu is saying, we don't charge the local people. It's basically a non-resident license.
Yeah.
Meaning if you don't carry a status and you're trespassing, and those are the people that are being charged with the access fee.
Yeah.
We don't charge the local native people, the Gitxsan, or so just to clarify that.
Well, probably misunderstood you, because you said $25.
I meant $25 for local non-status. I'm
Oh, okay.
sorry, I should have made that more clearer.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's good. Thank you.
Norman?
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, these are really good points. I'm just wondering, when you're allowing permission to trespass, do you tell them that, I think it would be a good idea to tell them that we do not allow any kind of playing with fish, catch and release. Do you stipulate that in as you're asking for these fees?
Majority of the people that come up here are sports fishermen. It's like I said, we just jumped into this pool. It was basically to control traffic. They're coming up here when they're targeting the steelhead. They're not allowed to kill them, so the majority they're just catching them and then they're releasing them. I have gone after people on the river that are, you know, I've caught them taking pictures and holding the fish out, and you know, we try to educate them a little more. You know, everybody wants a picture with their steelhead and trophy in hand. I'm guilty of it myself. I've done it. I've taken fish out of the water, and, you know, I've taken a picture with it. So, but you know, starting to see a bigger picture here. So, but like I said, and that's going on to your question is, yeah, we try to, you know, but like I said, there's only 2 of us. We can't control all the water, but we try to educate them a little more. And we've actually kicked people off the river that we've seen, you know, taking pictures, like having the fish and control over, you know, if you're gonna catch a fish, you know, you want to just keep it in the water, basically, and you know, take your hook out if you're gonna sports fish it. They say taking it out of the water, you know, compromises it, basically. So you're lifting a fish up and basically applying all that pressure on their organs to hold it up out of water for a while, and you know, I don't think that would be comfortable for anyone, right? So, but we have, like I said, we have asked people to leave the river that we've caught doing that before, and you know, where they've had the fish out way too long, basically, in our eyes. So I could see where you guys are coming towards, getting like where your angle is on this. Basically, it's we're taught not to play with our food, and I see why, you know, you guys are raising these questions, and I appreciate them. So I don't know.
It's good that this is a step in the right direction, because as people who own the land, it's our jurisdiction, and the guardianship program is a step in the right direction for taking over. And there are a lot of negatives to this, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, Gitxsan are doing it. So it's better that we issue these informal permits rather than the white man. So it's a step towards that, that's what I'm saying.
Thank you for all of the questions. Monty, can you touch a little bit on the Skeena Eco Expeditions, where this kind of all partially started?
Skeena Eco Expeditions, basically that was brought in to accompany tourism, I guess you'd say. They started off with river rafting, taking groups of people down on the rivers, yeah, and basically started from there. It was basically just a river rafting outfit, and I still do that from this day. I go out, I take big groups of people down the river and stuff like that, and yeah.
You started it?
I didn't start it. It was I'm not too sure who brought it into. I was just brought in by my sister and my brother and my sister-in-law at a young age. I was like about over 20 years ago when I was brought into the rafting business, or well, guiding business you'd call it. And yeah, we still do it from today. Our runs consist of, I guess you'd say, we put in up above on the Kispiox River, like up high. We'll put in, we float down to the point, or either to Gitxsan, do a full day on the Skeena and the Kispiox as well, and other places on the Skeena. So, I don't know if that answered your question a little bit, Brian.
It kind of does. I guess I wanted to add a little bit of information to what Monty has covered. I was a part of the band council, I believe the chief counselor and or band manager, and we've done this for probably 35, 40 years. My uncle, the late Reynold Williams, used to actually go down to the river and get fees from Americans and people who were fishing on the Skeena River, because they were trespassing. They were coming onto the Kispiox Reserve without permission, and felt they had that right because they were providing the province $35 or whatever the cost of the license was at the time. We at the band level, we realized that the tourism was a $1 billion industry. A $1 billion industry that we watched the money go past us as a reserve. And so the minuscule little program we finally put together after years of many attempts was to look at access. It's actually an access fee that the Kispiox band is charging the fishermen who access the river on reserve, because there's no other good access fees on the reserve, outside of the reserve. They were getting on the river by parking their vehicles in at the Kispiox Bridge or the point, or a couple of access points on Date Creek, any way that they can get to the river. And so primarily it was intended to charge for access fee. Maybe you could touch on the when your rafts and equipment were confiscated and what the results were.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess this is when, well, I was pretty young when this happened. I was asked to bring out a guy fishing, and so I did. I didn't, know anything about rod days or whatever, and I guess you'd say I was pulled over on the river by a DFO, I guess you'd say, or conservation officers, sorry DFO. But I was pulled over and my stuff was confiscated. They were taken. Yeah, the guy that was with me that day, I guess he had a mild heart attack. It was pretty scary, so I had to rush him down the river. But yeah, they seized all my equipment and took my rod and stuff on me. So kind of found out a little more about what goes on the rules and regulations that day, and it was, yeah. But I got all my stuff back, needless to say. So
Basically, they dropped the charge.
they dropped the charges. It was dropped the next day, to be honest. I had my brother come in and step up and argue my point, because it was basically like, I was on the land, and they gave all my gear and my equipment back the next day. So, but it was kind of a scary altercation, I guess you'd say. So.
Thank you, Marty. Any other questions?
I have a question for who looks after the equipment that DFO confiscated from the fishermen? Is it the province or feds?
Well, it would depend on who confiscated it. You heard from Monty, he mentioned DFO, so federal fisheries officers. They have jurisdiction to confiscate equipment where they think there is a contravention taking place, and the province has that same jurisdiction. So if Canada confiscates the equipment, then they would be responsible for managing its disposition. And if BC confiscates the equipment, then they would be managing its disposition.
The reason why I asked, I've been approached by a few people who their equipment were taken away during the closure. And they were wondering if we were working. I said, precious management team, trying to get the equipment back, because that costs money.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And we thought the same way when we were talking, when we first began with sports fishermen. If they don't obey, we can confiscate their equipment. We're not trying to make friction here.
Right.
We're trying to work together so everything will be okay, but a few of the people whose equipment has been confiscated asking me, what are we doing about it? That's why I brought it up.
Right.
Since you're part of the government, whether it's BC or feds.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to bring up.
Well, I'm part of the BC government, and the Conservation Officer Service and Canada, with regards to the fisheries officers, they have the authority to confiscate equipment when they believe that there's an infraction taking place under the Fisheries Act. And they exercise that as they see fit, and that's outside of my control.
But the problem here is they have to, us as a government, they have to talk. Gitxsan government. It's not just one way all the time.
Right.
That's what I want to bring that up.
Agreed.
Because they seem to want us to follow their rules, whether it's BC or feds, and they disregard those. I wanted just to bring that up. Whatever they say, and like it says on your news release, will come later. They start something, then they call the RCP or the Army to do the dirty deeds. I know I'm going a little offline here, but
I've been approached so many times regarding that. That's why I want to bring it up while one of the government reps are here. I mean,
Thank you. Chaz?
Yeah, no, I think this is a really important conversation, and I'm really glad, Monty, that you're able to be here for this conversation. It's just bringing up some things inside of me that we've talked about all this before, and what we're talking about from the Gitxsan government is trespassing on the Anat, right? And we've had multiple conversations with BC, we've had multiple conversations with DFO, and we've tried to clarify what trespass means to the Gitxsan in comparison to what trespass means to BC and the federal government. And what we heard from DFO was clearly their definition of trespass only applies to reserve lands for First Nations. And I'm just looking at BC's angler notice in the Skeena, which we've talked about. And Troy had indicated that their legal team was looking at this last sentence in this notice, which states, "Please respect First Nations rights and perspectives and seek permission before crossing Indian reserve lands." So I just want to highlight that, you know, it's good that we do have our bans implementing that trespass. It is good, and it just needs to be extended to our Anats, right? And that's the important path that we're working towards here. I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
I think if you're gonna go in that kind of direction, I think if you're, especially with the Anat, I think it'd be up to that household to pick two of their younger people or someone in their whelps to implement that law. And they'd have the support of the fisheries or whatever behind, like, you know, so to give notice to that, I think would kind of help solve where you guys are kind of direction you're pointing. It's just an idea, I'm not speaking for you guys, I'm just, and regarding with Niskamanoo's question there, when my gear and my equipment was seized, it was seized and became, they're gonna present them as evidence to the majesty, that's what I was told. But I guess when they brought it up, it was just thrown out and they told them to give my gear back, so.
yeah.
But, yeah, that's all. Norman?
Yeah, okay. Okay, what the government is doing is using the band and the big corporations, they're using the band as, I guess, a leverage to say that they have permission to trespass on our land. And then they sign these, I'm talking about pipelines, but it applies to fishing too. So they use the reserve lands to make it look like they have permission from all the people and all the chiefs in their territories. So have you guys had any kind of friction between what you're doing and the band? Like you guys are taking money and they're taking money. Do you guys have a friction? Have you had any kind of
Like conflict?
Yeah,
Between
the band and you guys?
No. My job is basically, I just collect these access fees and whatever cash I accumulate, I bring it into the band office, write out receipts and put them in my books and my file, and yeah.
So you take the money to the band,
Yeah.
and what do they do with the money?
From there on, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there's an area where friction could possibly come, because it is on somebody's land,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Maybe I can touch on that one, Norman.
okay.
I know about this because I was instrumental in helping it get off the ground. So the fees that they're collected go towards the guardians' wages, travel expenses, any kind of equipment that they need to run this program, because the program is self-sufficient. There's no money coming in anywhere to cover their time to do the work that they're doing out there. So Monty works directly for the band. So there's no room for friction other than they're not paying them enough for the hardships that they're going through. And there's so many different funny stories that have come out in regard to fly fishermen trying to avoid paying their fees. They hide under the ridge, or they hide in the bush with their spey rods that are 6 or 7 feet above the regular brush, and you could see them. And so they're sitting there waiting for Monty to go away, and Monty sees them, or any one of the guardians sees them, and so he just sits and waits. After an hour or so, after fighting out all the bugs, they finally come out.
Yeah.
And their biggest argument is that they've already paid their fees.
Yeah. Okay, you see, this is where there's a positive towards, for us as Gitxsan people and owners of the land. This is an example of how the guardianship could be expanded to include every single village, because there have been concerns raised at this table. How are we going to police? How are we going to police the people who are allowed who are fishing on our territories? So the guardianship program can be expanded, for the Gitxsan.
Robert?
There's one positive thing about what Monty and them are doing is that we've asked the government who monitors fishermen. There's no answer. If they're allowed to keep fish, how do we know they're not taking more than what their quota is supposed to be their quota? Because nobody's there to monitor them. When they see Monty, they have to obey. And that's sometimes what the band does is that like Monty has experience, but some of the people in the office, they don't have no idea what they're talking about. So you have to have experience before you even get people. I agree with Monty about this rafting, because that's one of the favorite things that tourists like. See the country on the river. It's just like when I still going to the coast to see different pieces of the territory. But like I said before, if we can find a compromise between what they're doing and our agenda, access, it'll be way better, the same as the government. But we're having a hard time trying to get the feds to meet us, and that's not very helpful. It seemed like my way or no way to them. Hear that, Melanie?
Yep, I hear that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think we've hammered this to the hill. I really appreciate your time and thoughts on this process. Monty, it's needed to, I think we needed to hear your points of view and how the actual program kind of works out. Do you have any comments, Melanie, before we close this part of the agenda?
Well, thank you for this information. It's been enlightening for me. I think that I'd actually like to follow up with Monty another time to talk about it a little bit more in depth from a DFO perspective as well. But I definitely think there's room for conversations to have on this in the future coming into the next season.
Thank you. So I'll add that as one of your action items.
Yes, please.
All right, so we move on to item number 6. Troy Larden, general update.
So no real update other than, you know, we, one of the action points we took away when we talked about, and I'm happy that Chaz brought up the language in the, on the regulations website, because we're still waiting for a response from the Gitxsan chiefs with regards to permissions and how those permissions can actually be acquired. So we were looking for contact information so that we could revise our notice if we were going to include the requirement for the anglers to get permissions. And outside of that, I provided my CN update. So I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Gordon?
Yeah, the Gitxsan chief said there's no trespass. And the 2020 season, there's no access. So there's really no permission to be sought at this point, or access for the 2020 season. But we believe that the ball's in your court because you issued the licenses for these people to play with the fish and waste the fish. So we believe that it's up to you to convince us when and if we should give permission to the each and that. It's very simple. If you want access to a territory, then you just ask for it. You talk to the chief. So at this point, for the 2020 season, there's no access. So your regulation, communication to the public, you can say that if you want. But we've said it. We don't really need your help to say that access is denied. We've denied it. Thank you.
Robert?
Yeah, just to add what Gordy said. I suppose you're talking jurisdiction and that, and like I said, that we don't fish for trophy fishing. Same with game, just to add that on. And we've been emphasizing to the government, feds and BC, there's no such thing as crown land. We don't recognize crown land. But we don't seem to find an answer from both levels of government. They just change the words. Like right now, they're cutting timber off our territories. Just a little sidetrack from what we're doing here. And another problem with that, they only use one chief name on each territory. There's usually about 5 names, maybe more, in territory. Not just one. The reason why they use just one is for the Delamore court case. They didn't want to call all the 60s plus chiefs to court. And it's about time that they recognize there's more than one chief that holds the territory. But they seem to, everything we try to do, you guys put a monkey wrench there. All your regulations. Us as Gitxsan, we have our yoke. It's written in stone. Nobody can change it. Government can't change it. No chief can change it. The Queen can't change it. written in stone for millennia, years. That's what we call guachiels. And the government, every time they want to change something, they put it through legislation, which is foreign laws to us. As Gitxsan, our own yoke. So what we're trying to accomplish here is, we're in dire straits in our fish. That's our main food source. And like I brought up before, we used to barter with Niska and the coast natives. Government put a stop to that for no reason. We used to exchange fish for moose meat, whatever, berries. And for some reason the government come and stepped in, and that was it. They charged the people who brought the fish or shellfish up, and it stopped. So as government to government, feds, BC and Gitxsan governments, we have to start working together. Not just one-way street. We are a government. We have been since before contact. We had our own laws, our own system. And in some of them, they're more stronger than the European laws. They're really strict. And I was asked, what's the consequences if nobody listens to your no trespass? I said, we'll deal with what we get to. And like I said, we can confiscate their vehicles or fishing gear, just like they used to do with the natives with their fish nets, boats, engines. But we don't want to go that route. We want to work together to make this work. We're talking about our fish and our jurisdictions within the Gitxsan boundary. Other nations have their own laws or whatever they want to call it. But us, Gitxsan and Gitxsan governments, we represent Gitxsan people within their boundaries. That's why we're sitting here. Every time somebody, a representative from either BC or feds, it's good for us. It's good for you guys. So there'll be no friction. We won't need the RCMP, the Army. That's all we're asking for, that you guys recognize us as a government, because we are one. Within our jurisdiction, 33 square kilometers. And jurisdiction, it's not just on that, the whole 33 square kilometers. There's no gap, nothing. Just like one of my late uncles, Robert Turner, said, how is the white people going to get through when we put all the blankets together? No way. That's made in our government. So it's about time that they recognize us. One-on-one. That's all we ask. We're not asking, we know it already. It's been in there for millennia. Time immemorial, I keep hearing. And the Welchians never stops, it just continues. A chief passes away, the name never dies. It just continues on, passed on. Same with our laws, our adal. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy, Gordon, and Robert. And Robert jumped ahead and did his number 8 on the agenda. We talked about the yoke and do not play with the fish. Do not waste fish. So on number 7, anglers and recreational fishermen. So I met with Gordon Wadley. He's representing the Northern Anglers Association. I mean, I gotten that name wrong. It's a long name. And he has been given the permission to chat with us at the table. There were a few unanswered questions that they had, the Anglers Association that is, and one of their concerns was the linkage between GDC and GTS and Gitxsan governance. They brought up what has occurred in the past, the closure of the office, and the other concern was a united front that the chiefs have as Gitxsan. So I provided some history to where we are today and what we're looking at accomplishing, and we're not looking at reinstating that we are Gitxsan. We are the Gitxsan government. He also provided information on the freshwater fisheries society and the people who were a part of that society, and this is where he believes a lot of the funds for the anglers that are being charged by the province goes to this pot of money, and it goes to their costs. And I think what I saw was in the one audit he showed me there, they have like $36 million in their kitty that they've covered. He also expressed that the Anglers Association have a lot of issues with the non-resident guides that are illegal guides on the rivers. He's even brought issues about helicopter pilots that are making money on the side to bring fishermen into secluded areas that they're not really allowed to do that. That's apparently illegal. And he indicated they have similar concerns of the fish numbers that are not returning, and also talked about perhaps an angling use plan that could be implemented for the Skeena. He would like to do a bit of a presentation to the CMT, and is currently working on a draft of a PowerPoint presentation, and then we can perhaps have him come to the table. The local anglers are wanting closures on the fishery because there's way too many that are fishing on the rivers, and even suggested a lottery system. He also indicated that the licensed guides that are on the river today are the only people that can be prosecuted. Those non or illegal guides, as he calls it, can't be prosecuted. And unless you actually see the money exchange hands, you have no proof. The levels of use, he figures like any Tom, Dick, or Harry can apply for a license online or a permit online and be granted that. There's huge concerns of the ocean fishery that although they have limits, they're working closely with the lodges, the fishing lodges, and they can take their quota of 2 salmon in the morning, go out in the afternoon again, and get 2 more, and then go out in the evening again, get 2 more. Was some of the information that he provided. So he's basically indicating that they're also quite concerned about the number of fish returning to the Skin River and tributaries. Those are comments that I can provide on my meeting with Mr. Wadley a few days ago. So that's my report on that. Christian, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. This is for, number 7, recreational sport, fish, what you're talking about, and, Robert, jurisdiction and that. All combine these together. This, really angers me, watching sport fish, recreational, shooting moose and just wasting them. There's people starving out there, either on the streets or in their own homes, especially our elders. People that can't get out there. Part of our law is well, we listen to our elders all the time, and we're supposed to take care of them and feed them. That's how we learned all our knowledge and wisdom that passed on. They come first when we need to. That's why this angers me. When we need to go out and get our own fish for our own elders and everything, there's always interruptions, there's always closures, there's this and that. When my grandmother really wanted fish and we couldn't get it because of the closures. We've been taught how to respect our land and that, and other peoples. We are kind people, we're generous as First Nations. And yet there's millions of dollars spent to control our land and that, and we don't see any of it. Millions of dollars going through Highway 16 up north. Billions of dollars. This is through our territories. This is off our land resources, our fishing, everything. And this is why us chiefs, hereditary chiefs, we're standing up. No more trespass. Bottom line. It bothers me every other day when I see, I live right in Killinga, and I see all these hunters every fall. The antlers are just overloaded and their four-wheelers are, they must have spent at least 10, 15,000, 20,000 just to go up there and blah, blah, blah. Take the heads off, leave the rest of the body. But yet that's a delicacy for our First Nations. We eat almost everything, even the bones. I watched my wife's father just recently cut up the bones. Nothing was wasted, like the guts, everything. This is the way we've been taught for many, many, many thousands of years. Like, wow, I can't believe that somebody can just dump a whole moose in. And my auntie taught me, you go out fishing for me, I want trout. I want some steelhead. And I said, okay. And she said, don't you waste anything. I want the head and tail, the whole thing, all the way home. I said, okay. And I've done that. This is what bothers me. Like, millions and billions of dollars going through our, right through here, like every day as we speak right now. You go out in the real world right now, you can see it all. You see everything that's going around you, around our lands and this and that. there's no hiding, nothing. Everybody has ears and eyes, and everybody talks, gossips, this and that. And I know the government is trying to get us to fight amongst each other, but we are stronger than that. We are way stronger than that. We know what's going on and what's happening. Thank you.
I just wanna ask Troy, what's Dale Bolt's position?
He is the Senior Emergency Response Officer. And his location is Prince George. And he works for the Ministry of Environment and Pollution Protection.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because you heard your name.
Yeah. It's Dale Bull. B-U-L-L.
Oh. Thank you.
Chaz and then Gordon.
Go ahead.
So, I'm glad to hear that Gord Watley made time to meet with you and that you were able to make time for him. The last time they sat at this table, Gord and Gene Allen were there on behalf of the Upper Skeena Guiding Angling Association or something along those lines.
It's the
hold on a second.
USAGA, Upper Skeena Angling Guide Association.
Thanks.
You bet.
And during the course of that meeting, there wasn't a lot of conversation about what the position of the association was. It was a lot of personal opinions that we were getting. So I'm just curious, when Gord Watley met you, was he speaking on behalf of Gord Watley or on behalf of the USAGA?
I think it's probably a combination of both him and, because he expressed his opinion on how he's been involved, from probably 30, 40 years ago, and, was providing, both the association and his opinion to the table. Because he provided all that, they reviewed the letter and wanted Gordon to pursue it a bit further.
Okay. The one thing that just struck me from the last meeting was that they both acknowledged that they understand the hereditary chiefs have closed the rivers. And we asked, was there still guides as a part of the USAGA that are still guiding recreational fishermen within the Gitxsan Lakip? And he said yes. And he rattled off a number of rivers. So if he's gonna come back and give a presentation, it would be good for him to provide an update on the messaging from the USAGA to those members regarding the Gitxsan fisheries closure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gordon?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for your report. Gordon Watley grew up in the area. I mean, he's living on the Kishpiox and the Skeena River. He's one of the ones I understand that accessed all these angling and guiding license way back. But he's not that old, so must have been people before him. And I support what Chaz has to say, requesting where these folks are actually operating and which annat, so we can determine which annat they're operating on, they're trespassing on. And I would like to say that my belief at this point is that the DFO and the federal government and the provincial government will have to put a lot of thinking into their permits and licenses. Because it is against our law to play with fish and to waste the fish. You waste one fish, there's consequences in our society. So I have no suggestion as to how the province and the feds are gonna reconcile, except their agreement that their permits and licenses will not be allowed to trespass in our territories. If they could put that into their regulations. I'm not telling them what to do, it's just what something I expect they would do. And I am very concerned about all this hiding in the bush, illegal guides. We have a lot of experience with illegal guides coming out of Terrace, Prince Rupert. They park their trucks and their trailers alongside the river. And there's not much that the government can do because they don't want to do anything about it. There's indication that the industry in this area brings in $110 million to the guides, and that the anglers brings in about $25 million. And we're not talking about money here. We're talking about playing and wasting of fish that generates all that cash for someone. And I believe that the people working for the government are in a conflict of interest because they themselves go out and angle and sport fish. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon.
Robert? Yeah, one comment to Troy. We've asked the government, both feds and BC, to they're in a better position to put this on news media, what we're doing, than any one of us here. We're after no trespass to the anglers, to the foreigners who come in as sport fishermen from all over the world. I hear monkey, yeah, I heard that. But that doesn't give them permission to trespass. And that should, government has more access to the general public and around the world to notify them what we are doing here up at our Skeena in our jurisdiction as Gitxsan government. But so far nobody's replied whether they're willing to do that. We're just wasting our breath, hitting their heads against the wall again. It's like the city seem like they're very good at putting a monkey wrench in what we're trying to do to better ourselves. I just wanted to bring that out, like I said, you guys got all the funding, the support of media to notify the public what we are trying to accomplish. We are accomplishing, not trying. We are. It's there, and it's our jurisdiction, period. Thank you.
Robert?
Just to clarify the 33 square kilometers, each chief that owns each and every one of these territories know every inch of it and the fishing holes. So there was nowhere to hide for anybody to hide. We'll find them.
Dude, come on, eh?
There's nowhere to hide.
And regarding 7 here, you're gonna be setting up a meeting to meet with Gord Wadley, you were saying? Are you gonna be bringing him?
No, I met with Gordon.
Oh, okay.
That's what I.
Okay, yeah. Alright. Cause if you were gonna bring him to the table, I was gonna ask permission to be here, so.
I don't think that'll be an issue.
Okay, cool, thank you.
He asked for permission to come back and present, did he not?
From, he asked the Anglers Association permission to come back to talk to us.
And they said yes.
Yes. Any other business?
You know, everybody talks about what elders want. One of the delicacies for elders and other people are the spring. And I think should we taking into consideration the Guardian program, I think there should be no fishing allowed for spring whatsoever, because our elders are going without because of all the fishing that's going on around, you know, either downriver or upriver. So I think there should be no fishing for spring whatsoever.
Monty and Robin.
Regarding what was just mentioned, I believe Chinook season was closed last year to all anglers. So I'm not too sure what the approach they're gonna do or what they're gonna take this season, but last year they had shut the whole thing down. And I believe the only ones that were, yeah, so I'll just leave it at that one.
Robin.
Suggestion, if you guys do open it, and if we all agree here, if they do catch spring, I think you guys should take it in consideration to keep it for the elders. They already paid for the fish and everything, you guys have the right to take it. That's a suggestion. Anybody would agree with that?
I believe when he talks about a closure, it's when DFO closes.
I know, but we shouldn't even be closed for our own jurisdiction. We're First Nations, we should be coming first, and we don't have to listen to any closure.
Yeah, I second that. All we're talking about here is no trespass to anglers and that the DFO has, don't want to close in the Gitxsan territory, there has to be some discussion with the Gitxsan chiefs. The GWA is a good office to start with, and from there to access the chiefs and to have proper consultation with the chiefs and the NAT. Thanks.
Thanks, Gordon.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, Melanie?
I wasn't here last summer, but from what I understand, the First Nations food fishing for springs was not closed last summer. But it was closed to recreational fishing.
Thank you. Norman, and then Robert.
Yeah, before we go on, I want to make it clear that this table here is over and above GWA, Gitxsan Watershed Authority. They get their direction from us. So either this table, they could work with this table, or with our permission, then they could go to GWA.
Thank you. Robert?
I just want to reply to Melanie. If it is that close,
Why did they take away the equipment of fishermen, local fishermen? Because that's within our own jurisdiction too, for food fishing. It's like Robin said, it's been like that for thousands of years. I fished with a friend of mine years ago, and I got charged with him. I was just guilt by association. the judge eventually dismissed it. But I missed so many days of work on the Fort Smithers. I was not compensated for that. And that's how they operate. And hardly anything ever changed since then. They're still doing that. Another example is, I know people don't like to talk about residential school. When they said no more, yet they're still taking Native children away to foster parents, not from their own nation. That's the same thing. So that's how the government operates. I think they're right all of the time. And they're security. If you think you're right all of the time, there's something wrong.
Thanks, Robert. So, like I said, number 8's been done. No other. Next meeting date?
February 13th?
Day before Valentine's Day.
I know Joy has a Valentine to look after.
So February
Every day is
13th.
Valentine's Day at my house, Gordon.
Right on.
It's a Thursday.
So, CMT, 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh, 13th?
Yeah, 13.
Yeah.
How's the 13th look for you, Melanie?
I think that I'm actually going to be gone that week, but I may be able to dial in from other locations.
Pardon me? Say that again?
I might be able to phone in. My headset might die here. I apologize if it does. I'm just going to put you on my hands free here. I may be able to dial in, but I'm likely going to be away in Prince Rupert that week.
Okay.
Can I say something? Can I say something to you, Melanie?
Sure.
For you being not present here, I just totally forgot about you, sorry. It's just easier if you came to the table.
I agree, and I guess my challenge is that I have many meetings already scheduled months in advance, so and a lot of them are requiring me to travel. So I'm trying to find I guess if I know that it's going to be every second Thursday or like kind of a general recurring time, then I can try to block that in my schedule.
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah.
Every second or third.
So March would be the 12th.
Yeah.
CMT, 12th, 10 a.m.
So right now I have March open. Yeah.
Okay, CMT is at 12th at 10 o'clock.
This is March 12th.
And are you going to be coming in?
Right now I don't have any travel scheduled for that week, so it looks good for that. It doesn't look like Sandra will be able to travel that week, but I will be able to.
So for the 13th, are you going to have a somebody taking your place to phone in, or are you going to do it personally?
On February 13th, I can phone in personally, but everybody in the North Coast is going to be in Prince Rupert that week. So there won't be anybody else to be able to physically come.
Can I ask what we're talking about? Some people say 13, some 12. No, March 12th. Every second Thursday for her benefit. Well, mainly all I can say to you guys gotta make time for us too.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of, typically our schedules start getting filled about a month or two ahead. So as long as I have enough notice, then I can prioritize it in my calendar.
We've given you people lots of time and notice.
Vernon, you had a comment?
I pulled it now.
Yeah, before we close, I just have a concern. Just want to express it to Melanie. I used to sit on the this is off what we're doing here. But I used to sit with the board of directors for Northern Native Fishing Corp. And Gitxsan is 1/3 owner of the Northern Native Fishing Corporation. Besides Niska and Gitxsan. And with the commercial fishing being closed, hardly any, maybe 1 or 2 days, 3 days each summer. The policy with Department of Fisheries and Oceans licensing, we have to still pay full amount of the license whether we use it or not. When there's hardly any fishermen left because of there's hardly any fishing days in the summer, we're losing the money. The Gitxsan and Niska, we're losing money, thousands of dollars each summer, starting for the past 5 years now, I think, since the commercial fishing is going down the drain. They tried to meet with the DFO without any response for the past 4 or 5 years now. So just want to put it out there if you could shake up the DFO to meet with Northern Fishing Corporation.
Okay, I'll take note of that.
Because I think the license fees would be waived whenever there's commercial closures along the mouth of the Skeena.
Okay. I've got to know that.
Gordon?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Melanie, Gordon Sebastian, I've got a question and wondering if you could give us an update at the next meeting. And it's the food fish opening that the Gitxsan fished on. And we did follow direction by GWA to use a 7-inch mesh. And we wonder if there was, if you have any data to show if that restriction did anything, or if you have any data on that, because we never did see any anybody come to look at our catch or see what we were doing from the Department of Fisheries. GWA did go by on a boat a few times, and they did stop at the net and looked at the net to see if there was a 7-inch mesh, and then they carried on. So we're wondering if you will have an update as to if that suggestion of the 7-inch mesh was successful, or you don't know, or you need to do it for a few years. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I'll follow up on that for sure.
Norman?
Okay, regarding the 7-inch mesh, I used it, and we weren't getting anything. We weren't getting no streams, no nothing. That interferes with our right to access food, fish, and I don't think it should be implemented anymore because it's our fish. I say we don't use that anymore. Maybe you guys could implement it, but we're not gonna set out any 7-inch fish. We're not asking for permission. This is our fish.
Thank you, Norman. So with that,
Mr. Chair, could I just
Sure.
ask for confirmation that there was a proposal brought forward by Mr. Moore for every second Thursday of the month to be a CMT meeting?
yes,
Are we following through with that?
I believe that we want to try something like that just to ensure that we have a schedule.
To accommodate fisheries.
accommodate all, yeah.
Yeah.
I would just, at the beginning of the call, Melanie said her contract is up in March,
Jeez.
right? So there's a potential that she'll come to one more meeting and then be gone like Juanita and everyone else. So I'd just like to say, if we could get some kind of line of sight on if Melanie's position will get renewed, or who within DFO could we rely on to be here for a long term and not be on contract roles to sit at this table.
Okay, I can follow up on that, definitely. I'm hoping that I'm going to know in February what's happening after March 31st. But just so that you're aware, normally my substantive position is the Aboriginal Fishery Program person here in Smithers. So it's likely that I may still be the point of contact, even if I'm not acting as the Aboriginal Affairs Advisor. So I'm definitely the person that you're going to want to communicate with to find out who the contact person is, and if there is nobody, then it would probably default back to me regardless.
Norman?
Yeah, it's really good to have Troy here on a consistent basis. And I mean, there are thousands of people working with you guys. I mean, you guys could take somebody and you know, put them at this table. It's ridiculous to have you absent all the time with, as I said, thousands of employees. So there should be some consistency.
Gordon?
Yeah, Melanie, is the problem that the province had set a high standard when having Troy here?
I think the challenge that we've had in the North Coast for DFO is that there were some staffing changes recently when DFO started getting invited to. I was gone for a year and a half, and that challenge because we had an opening here in Smithers with nobody in it. So now that I am back, I'm just back as of October, so I plan on staying. So hopefully this will help bring some consistency.
Thank you. So did that answer your question on the 2 weeks or second week, Troy?
Is that, I was looking for confirmation that that was agreed to by the table, that we were going to target every second Thursday of the month, because that's important for my calendar
Yes.
as well. As important as it is for Melanie's, it's equally important to my calendar. And so just some confirmation on that would be handy.
Okay. I think we're generally agreed
Confirmed?
to that, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Monty. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Melanie, for participating in our meeting this morning, and a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good information and exchange. We are moving forward, and the team here is representing, and we'll bring all of this back to the chiefs at the governance table, as we are a select group that are working on this issue, and we continually update the chiefs in the nation. With that, again, I ask Sarah Miro to close our meeting today, and then also bless the food that we are about to partake in.
Uiteindelijk toen we waren dat zo ga je door zo nu aan successtorie op de koers achtergrond. Om goed genoeg om hoogstens heilige maat. Die hoogstens dat niet de moraal kan ze hebben nog te kunnen stil houden.
Amen.
Fund for making